before I joined Microsoft, I was leading software engineering for a pre-IPO company. I was giving that role my all in terms of hours, 6 days a week, 12 hours or more a day. Really compromised my own health. I ended up in the hospital a couple times with pneumonia a couple times. My firstborn was born and I didn't spend much time with he or my wife. Drove my team, some of which were my friends, really harder than I should have. And turned out that we never were able to go public. 9/11 happened and we couldn't go public. And then we sold ourselves to our closest competitor for pennies on the dollar in terms of how much money we raised. Early on in my career at Microsoft, somebody told me something that I thought was just really profound. In fact, I blogged about it on Sunday. Like he said, a good measure of how you show up as a leader is the length of the line out the door. You know, the number of people that are reaching out to you, not because they have to, but because they want to. Do you offer a safe space for them to confide in you about some of the challenges they're having? Do you offer good guidance for what they're working on? Are you available and approachable? All of those things. And so that I had that printed on my desk at Microsoft. In any given week, you work on blue things and red things. And blue things I would describe as things that you enjoy doing, you're good at, maybe you're uniquely qualified for. You spring out of bed because you're excited to do them. Those things are blue. Like, even if you're tired, blue things give you energy. If I had to choose one thing, it would be that hard skills can get you the job. Being a great software engineer, that's how I got my first job. I was a great software engineer. I had a degree in mathematics and a degree in computer science, and I had like analytical, critical thinking skills and could solve problems and whatever. I was a great software engineer. But the things that kept that job and helped propel my career were not the hard skills at all. It was the soft skills. And so hard skills will get you the job, but the soft skills are the thing that are keep your job or help grow your job and grow your remit. And so unless you're honing those things, you may also get left behind because of AI.
My honored guest has been working for Microsoft for 2 decades at teams with as many as 700 members, and decided to work on his own, control his time and how he spends it. You will enjoy this conversation. I'm sharing my screen. That's super unique about him. He is an endurance runner. He runs as many as 90 miles, soon to break this record with 100 miles. During these runs, he comes up with a lot of interesting ideas. I really respect all of his concepts and strategies that he shares with his clients worldwide, and will share a link to the blog post. I encourage you to read. Mike is the type of person that if you sit across the table from, you could have a conversation for entire evening up until the morning, and you would not get bored for even a second. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into the conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Quiet Work Podcast. I'm here with Mike. Mike, please take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us about the business or businesses that you represent, and we'll start the conversation with that.
Yeah, fantastic. Matt, thanks for having me this afternoon. It's such an honor to be on your podcast. I've listened to a number of episodes and always walk away with just a little bit more insight about different leaders' perspectives and the companies that they run. And so just it's a huge honor to sit here as well. Milestone Leadership is a leadership consulting company based up here in Seattle, Washington, here in the Pacific Northwest. So I have clients in Europe, in Dublin and in London and in Wrocław, Poland, which you're a little bit familiar with as well. And we focus on helping leaders become their full leadership selves. And what that means to us is really 3 things. One is as you step into these leadership roles, or maybe you're transitioning and scaling your leadership, oftentimes the things that got you that promotion are not the things that are going to make you successful once you've stepped into that role. And so how do you identify the things that you no longer need and grow the skills that you will now need to be successful in that new leadership role? The second thing we focus on is how to do that and remain balanced against the things that you care about in your life, like relationships and maybe like your physical health and other things that are not necessarily directly tied to your job, but could get compromised because you're focused so much on your job. And so we spend a lot of time with leaders in terms of developing solutions that help them stay balanced with those things against the time they spend in their role. And then the last thing that we focus on is a number of, especially early stage founders, have a very difficult time giving up the things that they had to do themselves when the company was early. And how to identify those things that are ripe for delegating and build systems and teams maybe that can handle those kinds of things more effectively than these leaders can going forward. So that's what Milestone Leadership does. Spend a little bit of time in one-on-one coaching. I spend a lot of time in cohort organizational development leadership conversation. I lead retreats. I do anything that really helps those leaders step into the three things that I just mentioned.
In summary, I would say we are going to talk about health, love, wealth, and happiness, the four pillars of good life
Love it. Love it.
that I stole from someone in the past. Before we dive into that, tell us about your journey, your path to doing what you're doing currently. How did it all start? When did it all start? And how did you end up doing what you're currently doing?
Yeah, I like to start with an experience that I had before I joined Microsoft. I was at Microsoft for
Sure.
20 years and I've been gone from Microsoft for 5 years. So if people are good at math, you kind of realize how ancient I am. But before I joined Microsoft, I was leading software engineering for a pre-IPO company. I was giving that role my all in terms of hours, 6 days a week, 12 hours or more a day. Really compromised my own health. I ended up in the hospital a couple times with pneumonia a
Oh,
couple times. My firstborn was born and I didn't spend much time with he or my wife. Drove my team, some of which were my friends, really harder than I should have. And turned out that we never were able to go public. 9/11 happened and we couldn't go public. And then we sold ourselves to our closest competitor for pennies
mm,
on the dollar in terms of how much money we raised. And I reflected on that experience. Like that was really, in retrospect, terrible. I thought my bank account would reflect and compensate for all the things that I had given up in that experience, but it turns out the bank account did not. And it's
mm,
probably a blessing in disguise because if it did, if we had become public, I would have used that to justify all those compromises that I made. And so, yes, I regret not being a billionaire and
yeah.
whatever, but from a larger life sense, it probably was a good learning opportunity for me. Just it's not always worth it.
It sounds like you co-wrote the book The Goal from what is it, 80s or 90s? Have you read the book The Goal?
I have, yeah. It's actually sitting on my bookshelf back here as well. Yeah, it's definitely a good call out. And so I use that experience really like, okay, is that the leader that I want to? Is that really the leader I want to be? And it turns out no. Just that decision, of course, doesn't make you a better leader, but it's the first step, like realizing this is not how I want to show up as a leader, and these are not the compromises that I'm comfortable making, and all of that. I think that awareness is super helpful. But I think it probably took a long time, maybe decades, really, to really figure out what is the leader that I want to be and how do I want to show up.
Mm.
And early on in my career at Microsoft, somebody told me something that I thought was just really profound. And in fact, I blogged about it on Sunday. Like he said, a good measure of how you show up as a leader is the length of the line out the door. The number of
Oh,
people that are reaching out to you, not because they have to, but because they want to. Do you offer a safe space for them to confide in you about some of the challenges they're having? Do you offer good guidance for what they're working on? Are you available and approachable? All of those things. And so that, I had that printed on my desk at Microsoft. Just really value the length of the line out my door, people that want to come and seek my perspective on things. Not because I'm egotistical, but because it's really a good measure for how you're showing up as a leader. And so that's kind of how I modeled my leadership approach in a lot of ways after
well,
that conversation with that mentor.
I'm curious, during that time at Microsoft and when you were working on that IPO that never happened, did you hire or someone on your team did hire consultants or people that helped them become good at their role or become better at the role? Was that happen?
In my career journey, it wasn't really a thing for outside people to come and tell you or help you, coach you, guide you on how to be a more effective leader. Wasn't a thing. And certainly Microsoft, now it's a little bit more open to that, but certainly, back when I joined in the early 2000s, like if I had brought that up to my boss, I can guess what his reaction would have been, but it wouldn't have been positive. It definitely wouldn't have been positive. And I think that's partly because we don't even still, I don't think we value the human skills that it takes for people to be successful. We value, are you a good software engineer? Are you a good accountant? Are you a good lawyer? Are you a good,
Right.
mechanical engineer? Because those are tangible and we can see the direct results of those things. But human skills, what we used to call soft skills, it's very hard to measure how much those are growing. And it's very hard to directly measure in the moment the impact those are having. And so we don't value them because it's hard to develop them. It's hard to measure whether you're developing them. And it's hard to see the impact of them if you do have them. But I think all those human skills are the things that make you successful. It's not as a leader anyway, it's not your software engineering skills, it's your leadership skills that'll help you be successful. And so, yeah, if I said, hey, I want somebody to come and help me develop my human skill, we're like, what is human skill? Like, you were a great software engineer, like, go do that.
Yeah.
I think would have been the reaction.
I think that's the challenge to identify. Well, it's usually about what we don't know, right? You have to have at least someone to tell you what you don't know, or you have to be perspicacious enough to identify it yourself and then seek help. I mean, there's a reason why so many professional athletes and now a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of startup founders are reaching out for outside help to bring on board to have that third person perspective. And I use this also in any relationships that I have or struggle with, to have that conversation from a third person perspective. I think that always lowers the guards and helps everyone find some sort of solution that will be mutually beneficial.
100% agree with that. I think, the nice thing about having somebody kind of observe what's going on from a third person perspective is like they don't have any skin in the game, really. Like they don't have a stake in the outcome other than you being successful. So they're not picking sides and
Right.
telling who's right and who's wrong. They're just observing. And so if you can create that opportunity, then definitely beneficial. I think not a very close second, but a reasonably close second to that is creating an environment in your team where your team members feel comfortable coming to you
Mhm.
and say, Matt, you said this in that meeting, may not have been the best thing for you to say at the time because of X, Y, and Z, or, I would love for you to show up more this way, or what I really needed from you with this other thing. And instead you provided that. Like if you can create a safe space for your team to come and share that with you without judgment, I think you can kind of approximate that coaching role that you're talking about.
I agree. So take us through the customer journey or client journey of yours that you're currently doing when you work with someone, whether it's in Wrocław, in Poland, or somewhere in the UK or in the US. How do you work with your clients? What are the transformations that you could mention without obviously divulging too much information about their
Sure.
names or company names?
Well, a couple things. One is I'm not great at sales. And so I like to start conversations like this. Like, Matt, tell me what's going on. Like, how are things going? What are you enjoying about your role? What are the things that maybe you're not enjoying about your role? How did you get into your role?
Mm.
Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? Do you ever consider some opportunity for somebody outside to help facilitate that transition that you envision for yourself? That's my sales process, is that. And you might argue the conversion rate for that isn't high. Maybe it could be higher if I was a little bit more high pressure or a little slicker with my promotional materials or whatever. But it's just not. It's not my personality. Like I'd rather have authentic conversations. And if you see that I can't add value, I'm okay with that. It's fine. Let's catch up again in 3 months and see if things changed. Totally fine with that. From the beginning of the journey, I really would just value, either online or ideally in person, cup of coffee, pint of beer, whatever, like just what's going on. And informally, are there ways that perhaps I can help? And if not, that's fine. The second thing that I do really is I would like to go through some quasi formal assessment if you're open to that. And the assessment could differ based on where you are in your journey. So we standardize on 4 things. One is a 360 assessment where people around you kind of provide feedback on how you're showing up. Maybe your boss, maybe your peers, maybe your employees. And if you don't have those, maybe you're an early stage founder, maybe some customers you're board or what have you. Um, because I think that holistic perspective, you get to sign in for that assessment as well. You get to say, here's how I think I'm showing up. The delta between what you think and what they think, I think, is often very enlightening. And so that 360 assessment is one. The next is we use DISC, kind of a leadership personality assessment. And then I have 2 bespoke assessments that I've developed for Milestone. One is about how balanced you are at a high level, scale of 1 to 10, like how do you think your physical health is? How do you think your emotional health is? How do you think your social health is? And the more important thing is, what do you think you could do to move it from a 4, perhaps, to a 5? And let's build systems and time in your calendar so that you can pursue those things. So that's one of the internal assessments that I built. And the other one is energy. How are you spending your time? Are you spending time on the things that are leverageable and unique to your skills and the value you bring? Or are you doing other people's work? And if you're doing other people's work, you're really squandering your opportunity to be a leader. So those are the 4 assessments. And from that, we have a pretty good picture of, okay, here's where I can lean in. Now, you, of course, can opt. That's a lot of data that you would get if you go through those assessments. You can pick and say, Mike, I don't care about that one. I'm going to focus on this one. That's fine. But at least it gives you an opportunity to kind of reflect on, here's the different dimensions of my leadership, and here's where I want to invest time in growing my skills over the next 6 months or so. And that guides our future conversation for one-on-one coaching. If it's workshop development, organizational development through workshops or whatever, then it really is consulting with that leader and ideally identifying 1 or 2 people on that person's team to round out my perspective about what's going on. So I'm not just taking that leader's perspective. I also like to talk to the team to get their perspective about how I can best help them through that organizational development. So for one-on-one coaching, I have a pretty good formula that I like. And for workshop or organizational development, really is much more of a consulting thing. But I do like to get multiple perspectives in that consulting role.
And of course, before you start any commitment, you take them on one of your endurance runs for 100 kilometers uphill.
Yeah. Many people opt not to do that. Maybe you're not surprised by that, but many people
Surprised.
opt not to do that. But if you don't mind, I'll probably mention something about that. I think one of the reasons that I enjoy, so I'm an endurance runner. One of the reasons that I enjoy that is because it really gives you time to think and reflect. Like endurance running is very social at the beginning. Everybody's at the starting line and excited to get going. And then, if you're out running for 3 or 4 hours in the woods on a trail run, like you might not see anybody other than the aid station. So you have a lot of time to think, which I think is great. I think it's great. It's very helpful for me. Maybe other people find that helpful as well. So that's one reason why I think it's very helpful, is just good time to reflect. The other reason why it's helpful, I think, is leadership. If you're going to grow as a leader, you're going to have to step outside of your comfort zone. By definition, anytime you grow, it's because you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. And I think if you can step outside your comfort zone in another dimension, not your leadership role, you can kind of reduce the risk a little bit and learn how to do hard things and take risks and grow. And
Mm.
it's surprising how transformational that other dimension is, like endurance running, back into leadership. I blog a lot about that because I really do think it's incredible how much the things you learn. For me, it's endurance. For other people, maybe something else that you can apply to your leadership journey. So I encourage selecting something, endurance running or something else, just because of that. It's an opportunity for you to grow your leadership skills, push the envelope, take on hard challenges with less risk than you would have to do on the job.
There was a period of time in my life where I wouldn't call it endurance running, but I was running frequently, pretty much every single day. And that was when I was in Poland, living close to a forest, right by the forest. And something about nature, running in nature, especially in the morning when everything wakes up, that was just fascinating and gave me ideas how to design my life or how I want to shape my life. Also, yeah, definitely overcome any mental struggles. You tend that's very therapeutical, I have to say. What was the longest run that you went on so far?
I ran an event in Park City, Utah, this last summer that was 90 miles, about
90.
90 miles. So it was a 3-day stage event. So you ran every day
Okay.
30 miles and you came back, rested. They had ice baths and other, like a
Yeah.
massage area as well. And so you got a chance to come back and recharge and go out again the next morning. That's probably the longest event. It was nicely broken up into 3 different days, but that's the longest. I am running a 100K race coming up this September. So that's my longest continuous run to date is 60 miles.
That's how much I run a year, probably.
Well, and I don't want to I really don't want to overstate the endurance thing. It works for me. I think there's a lot of benefits that apply to my leadership journey because of that. for other people could be something else, and that's totally fine. I did want to pick up on one thing that you mentioned, like being out in nature. It's very well studied. Sunshine, fresh air, being out in nature, looking on a broader horizon than just a screen has an impact on how you think about the world and how you think about strategy and how you think deeper thoughts in that context than you do sitting over your keyboard and looking at your screen. I would be very surprised if your listeners didn't agree with that, if they felt like they did a better job thinking strategically by sitting at a desk than they did stepping away from the desk.
100%. No, I agree. It reminded me of something. First of all, this will be the biggest takeaway for me if I can be selfish for a second, because the one thing that I miss here in the desert, living in the desert, is the fact that we don't have really any forests here. For
Yeah.
us, the nearest forest would be up in the mountains, which isn't that far away, maybe like a 1 hour drive. But I will definitely take this conversation to heart and take my daughter and my wife more frequently to the forest up there just to walk around, be close to nature. And now I just remembered you coming from a corporate world. When I was back in Germany, where I spent my teenage years in Frankfurt, I did my internship at JP Morgan. And
Okay.
one thing the whole team was doing once a week, sometimes twice a week, they were in the middle of job, spending the lunch break at the Mensa, and they would go for a run in the city. So that was something that I remember now that you said that there's definitely something to clear up your mind. And obviously, when they were working on those $1 billion contracts in between, they went on a run to the whole team with the executive leadership team. They went on a run to clear their minds, be together, obviously talk freely. There's something behind it for sure. So I agree
Yeah.
with you. And it obviously helps with the burnout that you might experience if you're in a high stake role or you're dealing with something that obviously requires your decision making
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot. So I agree
I
with you
mean,
there.
you touched on a lot of things, I think, in that team running thing, like being outside, stepping away from the desk. Lots of value, well studied, well researched phenomenon there. Spending time with, I would call them friends. Probably when you're sitting behind the desk, they're also coworkers. But if you're running with them, I think they're probably your friends
Especially if you work with them for 20 or
in
30
general.
years.
Yeah. And so just getting different people's perspectives about stuff, it doesn't have to be about work, but I think just creates different connections in your brain that otherwise wouldn't be connected if you were just sitting behind the desk. And of course, the physical benefits of like, running and being in good cardiovascular health and whatever, creates better blood flow to the brain and so doing something like you just said, even if it's for 30 minutes, you might be going 5 kilometers or something in 30 minutes, 4 or 5 kilometers. It
Yep.
doesn't matter how far you run. You're just checking the box on a bunch of benefits that come from that. Could be a walk.
10K
That's
steps,
just the same thing.
day, 10,000 steps. No, I'm obviously I work out pretty much every day. I love movement and I do it. It was just never the endurance run. It
Yeah.
wasn't for me. I just couldn't, my body couldn't handle it, but I
Yeah.
definitely respect a lot of people, everyone who's challenging himself with such a big task. I mean, 100 miles, that's insane. I can't wait to see your picture from the finish line.
It'll be from a hospital ER with an IV in my.
Hey, that's possible, but obviously we hope it's not going to happen. Fun fact: I started playing soccer again with friends here in the desert,
Oh,
and
amazing.
I ended up in ER after one of the
Was it because it was hot? Like it was too hot for you to
yeah,
be out
it
with
was
soccer?
in the winter, so for us, winter was we were in the 70s
Okay.
more or
Yeah.
less. But my lungs, I had also pneumonia cases in the past, and my
Yeah.
body wasn't. Soccer is you do a lot of sprints pretty much all the time. It's a
Yeah.
sprint, a short break, you walk around, run around, and then sprint again and sprint again. So my lungs couldn't handle the amount of air that I would breathe in. Often because I had lack of skills to breathe through my nose at high heart rate, I had
Oh,
to
sure.
breathe through my mouth automatically because I was in the game trying to focus on the game, and that all caused my lungs to pretty much cause so much pain that I couldn't breathe, a very shallow breathing, and I went to check on my lungs and it was fine. I just needed a couple of days to recover, but
Yeah.
that was the sacrifice that I had to make.
Well, that's probably the other big disclaimer that you should share with your listeners is like, I'm not advocating anybody like get off the couch and go run 100 miles tomorrow.
That's for
Like,
sure.
I'm not saying that at all. But I do think there's benefits in being outside and moving around and hanging out with friends
Oh,
for sure.
100%. And if we motivate someone to stand up from that couch, if he thinks about or she thinks about staying longer on the couch or watching TV and going for a run, going that's absolutely a win for both of us. So I'm
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
you'll resonate with that as well. And we hope to see some comments on that as well. I always like to focus on only one person, whatever that is might be challenging to motivate, but just one person that you can impact, because that one person might impact another person, maybe multiple people, and that always creates a great compounding effect at the end.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you that. Back to your endeavors, current business model that you're doing. We've briefly mentioned it, or you mentioned your background. Other than the German license plate above your head, there is some patent. How did you call them?
Yeah. Patent cubes.
Cubes, or that's the word I was
So
looking for.
Microsoft, if you get a patent at Microsoft, Microsoft will pay to have a pretty heavy cube made to kind of reward you or recognize the fact that you've innovated in some new thing. So most of those, all but two of those, came from my career at Microsoft. So Microsoft themselves actually owns the patent. I don't own it
I
individually.
see. So it's
Well, two of
Microsoft.
them I own because I invented something after I left the company. But
That's interesting. Yeah, our neighbor, Bill Gates, is one of our neighbors. I like to say he lives obviously in a very high-end gated community, but
yeah,
it's he spends a lot of time here in the desert, especially during the tennis tournament with
yeah,
his
yeah, yeah,
buddy
absolutely.
Larry Ellison in
Yeah.
his vehicle.
Well, you mentioned, like, he's just down the road from me, when he's not down in the desert as
Yeah,
well, so he's 15 minutes away from here.
that's true. That's true. So if you look at your career in the corporate world in Microsoft, now what you're doing, what gives you the most fulfillment, and how would you describe it?
You touched on it a second ago, and I totally agree. I no longer have the reach that I did at Microsoft. At Microsoft, I led large teams. I think the largest team I led was in the 700-800 people.
Wow.
And so, directly impact a lot of people because they're in my organization. And at that time, they were you mentioned Wroclaw. I had an engineering team in Wroclaw. That was part of that 700-person team that I mentioned. So I don't have that impact anymore directly anyway. Microsoft builds products that tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people use. So I no longer have that impact
Mm,
either. But the thing that you said a second ago that really resonated with me is, like, I really enjoy working one-on-one with people and just unlocking their potential, helping them unlock their own potential because they learn, like, the skills that I had that got me promoted around the same skills that'll make me successful. Just that realization, I think, is helpful to people. Identifying what are the new skills that they need that perhaps they need some support in developing in their new role. That shining a light on that and helping them build confidence about those new skills that they're developing is really, really rewarding. I think helping people be more balanced, like, I'm working with somebody who just came to me and said, I don't feel like I'm giving my family the time that they deserve, because by Friday afternoon when I come home, I just am beat. And the only thing I want to do is go to bed by 7. And, find myself checking email when I'm at my kid's soccer tournament on Saturday morning and not really paying attention. And just helping those people, like, you don't have to work 100% of the time. You don't have to work 75% of the time. You can be effective and be more balanced. And that balance can supercharge the impact you have as a leader. And so helping people realize that and kind of develop systems and approaches for that is very rewarding. So mostly individual one-on-one kind of rewards. Sometimes that's delivered through one-on-one coaching. Oftentimes people will attend a workshop or retreat that I'm leading and come to me after and say, the one thing you said that really impacted me was X. You never know what that one thing that you're going to say that will impact people. Most people don't recall 4 hours of retreat that you're leading,
yeah.
but they do remember how they feel, and they do maybe remember one or two things that they're going to take away and apply. And so just that is very, very rewarding. I tend to focus also on impact focused founders. I'm the board of an organization called Watson Institute, which is a social impact accelerator program based in Boulder, Colorado. And those leaders are very similar to the leaders that we've been describing. It just so happens that the mission that they're on is tied to some social impact that they're passionate about. And so I work a lot with those leaders as well, and helping them accelerate and amplify their social impact is also rewarding. Yeah, just in summary, I think it's just these small nudges, small ways that I can impact a small number of people. To me, is just really, really, really rewarding. because I
Y-
get to look people in the eye and see the impact that I'm having.
You've mentioned helping them develop new skills or new strategies. I would like to steal one of your strategies. If you could explain to us and share it with us kindly, blue task versus red task. You
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's not Matrix for those who are listening. It's not from Matrix.
It is not from Matrix, though. If that helps you remember, that's totally totally fine. It's not the red pill, blue pill kind of thing at all. I gave it colors because it just seemed like it was an easier thing to remember. So the framework is very simple. So you have in any given week, you work on blue things and red things. And blue things I would describe as things that you enjoy doing, you're good at, maybe you're uniquely qualified for. You spring out of bed because you're excited to do them. Those things are blue. And most often the things that are blue for individuals give them energy. You walk away thinking, gosh, I just did that thing and I'm super proud of that. And the impact that had was high. And even if you're tired, blue things give you energy. And so the more as a leader you can focus on blue things, the better, obviously. Red things are just the opposite. Red things are things like they usually get procrastinated. So it's on your list on Monday, and by Friday afternoon, you still haven't gotten to it. Maybe you're not great at it. Maybe you don't have any skills in it, but somehow it's on your desk anyway. And these are things that you're not great at. And the common theme there is they take away energy. So
Mm,
think about for most of us, if some of your listeners are accountants, I apologize. But for most of us, it's bookkeeping or doing your taxes. Like that for me is, my God, like
big
I would
time, right?
much rather do anything else than like step aside and organize all my statements and whatever and get ready to do my taxes. It's the thing that I do late every year. I start early and end late because I just hate doing it. So that's an example. Like it just sucks away your energy. Like you're just moving the pile from I could do it today, but you know what? I'm going to pick it up and set it over there because I don't want to worry about it. And then deadlines come up and you're anxious about it and whatever. So you can see how things like that just take away your energy. But things like this conversation with you today, Matt, like I really enjoy talking to like people that are asking probing questions or whatever. Like I'm super excited about that. By the end of this call, I'm going to be, full of energy. And so it doesn't have to be the same things that are red and blue for you that they are for me. And in fact, my business manager, she's fantastic because her blue things and her red things are opposite mine. She
Interesting.
loves doing the accounting stuff. She loves doing, preparing for taxes and creating systems and processes and whatever. She just loves that. So your red and blue things don't have to be the same as anybody else's. What are the red things and blue things for you? I think is the thing that's important to think about. And if you can focus your time on the blue things, those in and of themselves create energy and creativity and spark innovation. And you bring your full self to much more so than the red things that are on your list.
And being aware of what these blue things or blue tasks and versus red tasks are helps you work towards delegating, maybe outsourcing in some cases, the red tasks so you can focus on the blue task, assuming it's not only something that you could do in your leisure time and something that can actually benefit the business as well, because that's part of leadership, right? You are in your role because of the fact that you are meant to be a leader and you want to grow the enterprise or the company that you're running. So
Yeah,
that's a great step towards it.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think if you walk away, I think from the blue and red framework with just two things. One is there are things that you do that give you energy, and there's things that you do that suck away energy. That's thing number one. Thing number two is there are always ways for you to do less of the things that suck away energy,
Mm,
including don't do them at all. Like some of the stuff that's on your plate, like I would argue, like catching up on email, like if it's important, it's going to be in your inbox. So don't worry about inbox zero as a goal, for example. So don't do it is one strategy. Delegate it, like you were saying. Defer it to the point that you can collect it and just say, okay, you know what? Thursday afternoon is all about the crap stuff on my list. I don't like it, but I'm going to play music and create a little party out of it and just kind of get through it all at once. There's different ways to kind of strategize around the stuff that's red. The first thing is identifying what is red for you.
And if you want the inbox zero, and if you suffer from the inbox zero syndrome, I recommend a shout out to an app called Superhuman for email. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
I've heard of it. I haven't used it, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
They recently acquired Grammarly, or the other way around. Grammarly acquired
Okay.
them.
Yeah.
Either way,
Yeah.
it's just fantastic. It helps you get to inbox zero because of the AI segregation and make sure you have the right things right in there. And usually, just as you've mentioned it, the most important emails, they're not in the hundreds, rarely are, unless you lead a
Rarely.
team of thousands of people. Even then, probably not in the thousands, right? So that helps a lot, and it's just a great app. Functionality on your desktop, mobile device, anything helps you spend many hours less every single week on your email. But that's not about them.
Well, I
Just
think
those
that
tools.
their ethos is where I came up with it. Like with email, there's only four things you can do. You can respond if it's going to take you a minute or two to respond. Like, okay, fine. You can delegate it. Like, you know who's a great person for this email? Matt. He's amazing at this. I'm going to give that to him. Let Matt
Yeah.
take care of it. You can defer it. Like, okay, on Thursday afternoon, I'm going to have a little party in my office with some music, and I'm going to work on all the stuff that's kind of related to the thing that I just deferred. Or the most important, powerful thing in the whole wide world is just delete the thing. Like, how many mail are in your inbox that you like get some real, it's almost a blue thing, deleting it. It's
Yes,
almost a blue
that's
because
exactly right.
because it's just nonsense. It doesn't help. It's not adding value.
And
And you don't need
exactly that's what you do there. And pretty much if you were part of the superhuman app, you would get a superhuman patent, a cube to add to your stack out there, because that's
yeah,
exactly what they do. And this the most blue task satisfying thing is when you click one button on your screen, it marks it as done. Essentially, you don't want to deal with that. You can postpone it or tag a member that should be the right person to do it, or AI might help you respond to those emails. So that's exactly, you nailed it. So great.
yeah,
It shows that you've been part of a great company for or successful company for many years, and you know how this works. I wanted to ask you about your business. If we could zoom out, how does one grow a business like yours? Like consulting, where you do a lot of one-on-one, you do events as well, where you host those events. So how does one grow a company like that?
yeah. For me, I think there's a few things that have helped me get to where I am now. And I would argue where I am now, you and I mentioned offline, I try to keep my working week less than 40 hours a week. I like to be intentional about the kinds of projects that I take on and the kinds of projects I won't take on.
Well, you need time to run those 100 miles every week, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I couldn't do it if I was like you. If I had young kids, it's probably not that amount of commitment for running is not possible. But it is now. My kids are a little bit older. Yeah, and so one of my constraints is two of my constraints is I try to keep my work week hours manageable, less than 40, and I try to keep control of the projects that I take on, those that I don't take off. So with those two constraints, almost all of my projects, leads, whatever, come through my network, either directly or indirectly. I mentioned my sales process a few minutes ago. Really, it's just a conversation. And if that converts to a client, then fantastic. If it converts to a follow-up conversation in a couple months, that's almost as good. And so that I think is helpful. The second thing is finding somebody to complement your red and blue. We talked about that a second ago. My business manager that I have now, she's actually been my business manager. This is the 25th year that she's been my
Oh,
business manager. She
wow,
worked for me. She was the first person I recruited into every new leadership role I had at Microsoft because our red and blue complement each other.
that's fantastic. What a perfect partnership.
Yeah, it's just been great. Now, not everybody is that lucky to have a person that they
Mhm.
work with, but you can always find somebody that's that, and at least give you more time to focus on the things that are blue for you, so you can bring your best energy to the things that you enjoy and the things that you're good at. So that'd be the second thing, is like try as much as possible to focus things you're good at and you enjoy. The fourth thing, or the third thing, I think, is I do turn, and in fact I used to take on fractional operation roles. And I stopped doing that partly because it's hard to protect your time as a fractional COO. Like, just because your hours are constrained doesn't mean the company's needs are constrained. And so you can say, hey, no, sorry, I've only allocated 15 hours a week to you. But they're like, well, I have this fire going. Like, who's going to help put out that fire? And so it just became the needs versus my ability to service those needs. There was just a big gap. And so I actually took that part out. I no longer offer
Mm.
fractional COO as a line of business that I support, because I just couldn't make that commitment work enough for those. So that thing is like, be willing to like pivot. It doesn't, just because you think you're going to launch a company that's focused on this, in 6 months, if that's not working, it's okay to pivot to something else, some other mix. And then the next thing is, I really do want to have genuine conversations with people. I really do want to understand where they're coming from, what are some of the challenges they have, and how I can help with those challenges. If you're not willing or able to be genuine in those conversations, then it will impact your abilities as a leader less because you're not being transparent with me. Like, I don't know really where I'm helping. And I really value the relationship part as well. And so I think almost all my clients, I can't think of an exception to this. I think all my clients I would love to go have a beer with or a cup of
Mm.
coffee with. There isn't
Well,
anybody that I'm currently working on that I would say, forget it, Matt. No, there isn't anybody like that. And so if you can build relationships with people that you enjoy working with and supporting, and you have the transparency to know what the real issues are and you can lean in on those issues, I think all the better. I do happen to have a fairly large toolbox of leadership approaches and perspectives and frameworks and assessments. And so that's helpful because not everybody's needs are the same and not everybody enjoys the same approach. And so it's good to be able to kind of mix and match some of the things that are in my toolbox to apply to the right customers. So or like clients or colleagues. So that'd be the next. I do have a strategic plan, but it's not fully deterministic. It's not like next month I'm doing this and that's guaranteed to get this outcome in 6 months. And it's just kind of okay, generally are we moving in the right direction? And that we change every 6 months or so. We update that every 6 months or so based on what we've learned and how the business is evolving.
you've mentioned one of the things that is the most fulfilling to me, or the thing that is most fulfilling to me, is when you can be yourself during the project that you're working on with someone because of who they are and who you are. Like, as you've mentioned, you can grab a cup of coffee or a beer with that person and be yourself. That's the biggest fulfillment that I can see from my
Absolutely.
short experience so far compared to yours. Where did the idea of, or when did it start, the idea of blogging originate? What is the inception behind it, and why blogging?
Yeah, so a couple things. I think I mentioned this early on in our conversation. There's so many lessons, leadership lessons that come to me when I'm out running.
Mm.
Sometimes it's because I start a run thinking about a problem and then, solutions emerge over the next couple hours. Sometimes because I never run with headphones. I was just, let free thinking kind of guide me. It's surprising what kind of serendipitous things come up when you do that. If you have headphones in, it's much harder to allow that serendipity to happen. So the first thing is like lots of insights come from just running. The second thing is I try to use blogging as a way to kind of sort out my own thinking.
Mm.
All of us have these really insightful moments during the day or during the week, but it's not always clear about the application or the meaning behind it or how you get there or whatever. And so blogging for me just kind of helps me take a thing and then kind of expand it maybe into a framework or a richer perspective or whatever. And so I use it more as a tool to kind of clarify my own thinking. And often I do it like I'm speaking at a big event in LA Friday. I think we had mentioned that when you and I were speaking offline. And I know what they're going to ask me. It's going to be a on stage kind of interview that's 90 minutes long, and they gave me the topics. And I just really wanted to make sure that I dusted off my memory about some of the topics they wanted to ask me about so that I was adding as much value in that context as possible. So blogging helps me do that as well. I really enjoy it. I'd do it all day long if I could. I'm not sure I'm good at it, but I enjoy it for sure.
Well, if you do something for long enough, you naturally get really good at that. And I think just it's a form of journaling, the way it sounds, the way you describe it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there is a platform, maybe you've heard about it. It's called Sprinter app. I have to share the link with you afterwards. It's a almost like a typewriter experience from back
Oh,
in the day where you can't do anything and there's an automatic clock for 15 minutes and all you can do in that app is to type. So you can't
okay.
do, it doesn't allow any access of any like third party apps or anything like that. You just sit down and write. Sometimes you will be surprised, and I'm sure you know it because you blog. So you will know that after a certain amount of time, ideas come to your mind and start to internalize that you would never think of.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
combine it, obviously, if you're running experience, when you allow your mind to run free, that's when the best ideas, best solutions come to us. So I think I can share with this with you, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it pretty useful.
Absolutely. Would love to see it. I think one thing that maybe your listeners would have an opinion about anyway is all the benefits that I get from blogging would be minimized if I used ChatGPT or Gemini or to help me write my blogs, because it really is a tool for me to sort out my thinking. If I just said, hey, write an article about this thing, then you're not getting any of that benefit from doing that. And so one of the reasons why I probably can improve my blogging is because I don't know if I'm a great writer, eloquent and good grammar and all of that. But at least the approach I take, like you said, is more journaling than anything else. And I would lose that journaling value if I was just dumping my ideas into some
I
generative
like
AI.
that. Bring back blogging. I think it's pretty cool.
Bring back blogging.
Yeah. Oh, that's BBB, not Better
Yeah.
Business Bureau, but bring back blogging. I think that's a good
You heard it
hashtag.
here first, everybody.
I love that. That's a good hashtag right there. And if it wasn't for journaling, we would not never hear thoughts or be able to read thoughts from Marcus Aurelius and some other people, that the giants that came before us. So make sure
Absolutely.
to write them down somewhere where we could access, if in hundreds of years when you're no longer with us, or maybe you are, but a bit
That's
older.
why
So
I'm running. I want to live to be 200 years old.
there you go, beating Brian Johnson. What it's his name,
Yes.
right? Brian Johnson, who wants to live forever and never die. So we'll
Yeah.
see how that's going to play out. But 200 is a good goal. I like that. One of the questions that I absolutely must ask you, because of the fact that you have experience in the corporate world for multiple decades, now you're running your own business, consultant business. What is the advice that you would share with Mike? Sit across the table from him. He's just starting out. You have your wisdom that you've been able to acquire over the years. What advice would you leave him with if he's just starting out?
Wow. That's a great question. I think maybe that if I had to choose one thing, it would be that hard skills can get you the job. Like being a great software engineer, that's how I got my first job. I was a great software engineer. I had a degree in mathematics and a degree in computer science, and I had like analytical critical thinking skills and could solve problems and whatever. I was a great software engineer. But the things that kept that job and got me helped propel my career were not the hard skills at all. It was the soft skills.
Mm.
And so hard skills will get you the job, but the soft skills are the thing that are keep your job or help grow your job and grow your remit. And so it's not enough, I don't think, to keep your hard skills contemporary, but it's also, I think, an opportunity to grow, especially in the age of AI, where AI is going to automate a lot of the hard skills away, at least minimize the role there. And what humans are left to do is do the thing that humans are good at. And that is collaborate and think critically and be creative and those kinds of things. And so unless you're honing those things, you may also get left behind because of AI.
All
But
right.
certainly if I had known that back early in my career, I would have spent less time in learning the next programming language and more time on how to relate to people. And I think that would have accelerated the early part.
And would you agree that the best way to improve a skill, be it a soft skill or hard skill, or develop a better habit, is to do more reps? So essentially, if you said
Absolutely. Yeah.
collaboration, being good with others, communicating with others, it's doing more reps of exactly that. Could
Yeah.
be taking your team on a run once a week or once a month, or doing something outside of work and spending time in nature. That could be one of the things that you could be practicing on. I think that's the
Yeah.
shift you're making towards, because of the fact that hard skills, as you mentioned, are going to be enhanced by AI, let's say, at least if not replaced in some cases.
Yeah.
We'll have, hopefully, I guess that's the idea of automating so many things to robotics, AI, and so on, that have more time to be us human and doing what we like to do, creates a better world. I think I hope that this is the direction we're taking.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that you just jogged my memory about is, one of the big distinctions I think between hard skills and let's call them human skills, not soft skills. Soft skills, I think, diminish the value of them. So let's call them human skills. Hard skills you can read about in a book. Like you can read how to become a great accountant or a software engineer in a book. In many cases, you can read about how to develop your hard skills from reading a book. It's very difficult to learn soft skills, human skills from reading a book. you might know what to do, but until you interact with humans in
Yes.
that soft skill, it's very difficult. So the quote that a friend of mine shared with me is, "It's very difficult to learn how to swim by reading about water."
Exactly. I have it written down. I in my journal as well on top of the page with every new journal
Yeah,
that I start. That's always a good metaphor to remember. You can't do that. You
absolutely.
have to put your reps.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I love that. Do your reps. Do your reps.
Do your
Not
reps.
only in running or weightlifting or whatever else you're working on. It applies to soft skills and human skills as well.
And if you agree with him or his views or not, that doesn't really matter. But if you read any of the books by Arnold, especially the one that shows that was written, that's what's unique about Arnold is that he wrote a book about his life when he was around 30 and then around 50 or 60 and now. So you can see that some things obviously have changed, maybe not to get into political views, but a lot of the habits that he developed when he was 20 and 30 that made him so successful in sports and later in politics, in acting, and so on. They stay the same, and that's something that's very unique about an author or a leader that we know. So in one of the books, that's essentially what he would call to do more reps, whether it was for bodybuilding, for acting, or for doing some social endeavors in California, whatever he was doing. It was about doing the good reps and
Yeah.
the reps that count. So I think that came to my mind, the story from him, and obviously growing up, been fascinated by by his roles and his athletic performance. So that's for sure. That's how I know Arnold.
You mentioned reps that count. I think that's such a great caveat to that as well, because especially with these human skills, like what works and how I interpret your emotions or your words will be very different from maybe somebody else that I work
Hmm.
with, right? And so it's not just you and I connecting twice a day and hoping that relationship will extend to impact on others is also about in different environments and different perspectives, different situations that kind of grow the quality of the reps that you're talking about.
Absolutely. It brings us back to the mind muscle connection from his bodybuilding days, where those are the reps that count if you actually can feel your muscle. And the same applies to anything else, even communication. If you're not present when you're communicating with your kids, your wife, or your parents, or your friends, or colleagues at work, if you're not being present because you're thinking about the next thing that you have to do or something that you forgot to do and you know you have to do, that's also not being present. Those are the reps that don't count, speaking of
Yeah,
soft skills, right? So that the same thing happens if you're not fully there. And that's why I really admire the fact that you run without any hardware and you just stay focused on the next step and you let your mind run free and be with yourself. That's a great skill to develop for everyone out there. It's so difficult to be with yourself. And
it'd be hard for sure.
absolutely, yes. I know everyone I ask, it's almost impossible for them to be with themselves
Yeah.
by themselves.
But,
That's that.
once you get like 2 miles away from the starting line, there's no going back. So you're just kind of stuck. So it really is about making that initial decision. Everything else just kind of takes care of itself because by the time you leave the starting line without your headphones, it's too late to go back and get them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't think about the 10 or 50 or 90 or 100 miles that you have to do. Think about the first few steps or
Yep,
the first mile. And then once you get into the habit, that applies to everything else, right? Think about
exactly.
the initial start of the conversation or initial start of the project, whatever it is that you're working on. Mike,
Exactly.
it's been a great conversation. I know you have quite a few events coming up, so we look forward to seeing some updates on your LinkedIn and your blog post, your thoughts, your ideas, and your endeavors that you do in business and in sports. I mean, I don't know how many people in our percentage. What's the percentage of people that are able to run for 100 miles or finish those runs? Probably like 0.0001%, something like that.
Small percentage for sure. Yeah.
Tiny percentage. So you belong to the elites of the world. Thank you so much for this conversation. I'm already looking forward to take two sometime in the future.
Excellent. Matt, thank you for having me. It really has been a great conversation. I appreciate the uplifting conversation that we've had in the middle of the week and look forward to the next time.
Thank you.